All right, we're here. Mining Disrupt, day 1 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I'm here joined with Samson. Sam, a bit of a downgrade compared to where...
Roughing it.
For anyone who doesn't understand the reference, last time me and Samson spoke, we were literally on top of a volcano. And when I released the promo tweet, I got the name of the volcano wrong.
Okay. There's 3 volcanoes.
Okay.
Yeah, you had a 1 in 3 chance.
I was close.
Close.
Close with no cigar.
We were on a volcano with a volcano behind us.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what complicated the naming.
I went on Google Maps to find the right one. I was like, I'm so confident this is the right one. And then you commented, I was like, oh no. Oh man. So Samson, we're here. It's March and close to end of March. And I would say the most bullish cycle in terms of news, like the strategic Bitcoin reserve, SAB 121, Ross being freed. We know it's a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and the altcoins are siloed to the side. So much good news breaking left and right. Positive regulatory environment. GameStop, right? Recently. But the price is, what's going on? What's happening? Is it being manipulated, man?
I don't know, but it's not right. So I think Bitcoin should be at 0.2 M or 200K. And the CIO of Bitwise also said the same thing. We're way undervalued from where we should be right now. And of course, that's just my gut feeling, and that's probably his gut feeling too. But it doesn't feel right. And usually what happens, I think, when things are kind of disconnected, is that there's a fast reconciliation. It's got to reconcile. All of this bullish news, and we're kind of stagnant in the 80s range, not even 100s range. It's just wrong. And it should adjust and right itself, which means, 10K candles, maybe 100K candle, and that'll put us in the right.
Yeah, so we're going to see the Omega candle. By the way, Samson, look at Samson's hat. Make Bitcoin in America. Love it. But yes, I can't wait for an Omega candle. I think I'm talking to Bevan. We're going to make an Omega candle come out of the volcano. Maybe we post that when... So 100K candle in a day.
It probably won't be in a day. We'll probably see 50K in a day, and then we'll get to 100 later. But we will get there eventually.
I think we did the 10K candle in a day, though. That's already checked off.
There's been 9 10Ks. If you count the red ones, there's 9 or 10 of them. You see a 10K down and then a 10K green.
Yeah, well, it makes me feel alive again, even when it's going down. Because right now, Bitcoin's acting like a stable coin. It's weird, man. Yeah. It's strange. You know what this cycle reminds me of, Samson? It reminds me of 2017.
Yeah, what else happened in 2017?
Well, we ended at 20K.
Yeah, see? I think a 10x is within the realm of possibility, highly possible.
Okay.
Just because there's so much demand and there's limited supply.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world doesn't yet realize that there's limited supply, right?
Yeah.
The world is accustomed to fiat money printing, and we can print our way out of the problem that we created, or we can always have an escape hatch, or there's a way to do something. We can adjust the rates or whatever, but there's nothing you can do with Bitcoin. Yeah. There's only 21 million, and I don't think the world has woken up to that fact yet, or else they'd be scrambling to buy it already.
Of course.
But given that there is demand from the US, 1 million is the Bitcoin Act from Cynthia Lummis, right, to acquire 1 million. And then there's a proposal put forth to acquire about 2 million Bitcoin in the form of a Bitcoin bond or Bit bonds. So that's 3 million of demand. So where's that going to come from? And Sailor has 500,000 now. Yep. The ETFs are still accumulating. And now GameStop is coming into the mix with $4.6 billion of cash. And there's other players with a ton of cash, like Berkshire, Apple. So what's going to happen?
Number go up.
Probably.
Number go up.
So it's just a matter of when.
Does it concern you that the vast majority, so Sailor's coins and the majority of the ETFs, they all have their Bitcoin custody with Coinbase, And I remember I was having a conversation with, I believe it was Caitlin Long and Larry Lepard, and they were talking about rehypothecation. So I'm like putting two and two together. I'm like, technically, we're seeing all these Bitcoin purchases, but there's really no way to verify that. That could be paper Bitcoin. And I mean, that could be an explanation as to why we're not seeing that upside volatility.
I don't think it's paper Bitcoin. I mean, the hardcore crypto anarchist Bitcoiners are probably thinking, yeah, it's paper. But it's highly unlikely that it is paper. I don't think Brian Armstrong would want to go to jail. And I have more faith in Saylor that he has the Bitcoin. I think the price is just, it's depressed. Like when we're flat and people are kind of worried, the hedge funds and prop trading firms, they can push the price down, right? They just have to, execute a sell order at the same time, right? Like from time to time you see a blip on the chart and we know like some guy fat fingered an order and that's why it went down. So the price is just a feed and it can be manipulated by, a couple firms all fat fingering at the same time. And that causes a panic and, that's what got us down to like the 70s, right? And it takes time to recover because it's market sentiment. But the price feed is completely separate from the supply of Bitcoin, which is dwindling, which we don't really have an idea of exactly how much is available to sell. We have people saying, oh, there's always someone that will sell, and there's always some whale that's going to sell it and buy like a mansion and a jet or something, right? But from all the OGs I talk to, none of them are really changing up their lifestyle. So I don't know who is selling. So again, it has to reconcile that the supply is being sucked up at this 80K range by all these big players, and that has to stop sooner or later.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the way that I see it in my mind is like kind of like a beach ball. You push it underwater, and the deeper you go into the water, the harder that beach ball is gonna just rebound up. So yeah, I completely agree with you. It's interesting, and let's see how the end of this year pans out. So I want to talk to you about the IMF. I don't think the El Salvador news broke while me and you had that conversation in regards to the IMF saying, really showing their cards. And there's, I would say, much deeper implications to it as well, because so essentially they transmitted to the entire planet. 94 countries have dealings with the IMF that they do not want you to own Bitcoin. Yeah. And they told El Salvador, a sovereign country with a democratically elected leader, the most popular president in the Americas, you can't do what you want with your money. That is crazy. And I'm so glad Bukele did what he did. And I could tell it was a difficult discussion behind the scenes, because if you were paying attention to his X account, there was a 13-hour difference between Bukele memeing that like, oh, we bought the dip, and then Elon Musk responding. He went radio silent with when the IMF news broke. 13 hours later, he was like, hey guys, of course you're going to continue buying. So I think he chose between his country's sovereignty and this cheap loan, essentially, deal with the devil, so to speak. Maybe I'm seeing things that are not there. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, I don't know, and I kind of got blasted when I questioned that if they're still buying. And the thing is, we didn't get a clear answer yet. Okay. Like just saying on Twitter, we're still buying, or this doesn't stop, is different than an agreement with the IMF. So it's not the IMF said, you got to stop doing something. The document that was released is a 119-page agreement that the government of El Salvador and the IMF reached together. It's not they're being forced. Like, the force would have been during the negotiations, but this is a formal agreement. This is why I theorized that they would stop buying. But then the president said, this doesn't stop. This probably alluding to buying or adding. But then the IMF also released a statement saying El Salvador is compliant with the agreement. So I'm not really sure exactly what's happening, but there are a bunch of theories floating around that there is a loophole. Either the time is not reached, which they have to stop buying, because there was a series of deadlines for different things to be shut off. Like Chivo shuts off at this point. They have to unwind at this point, and they have to do all these different things at different points in this year. So it could be possible that they haven't reached the point at which they need to stop accumulating, or there's a theory put forth that it is internal transfers, which could be possible because not all of their holdings are disclosed. When they first created their SPR, or they just called it a treasury at that point, they said, like, we're moving a portion of our Bitcoin to this reserve. So that implies that they have other Bitcoin that is non-public. And I think Joe Nakamoto is running with that theory. The other one is that they're donations, which I don't think it'd be possible to sustain at that level of one a day.
Of course.
Unless there's a really big whale that wants to give one a day.
Just one.
So something doesn't make sense here. Something doesn't add up because there is an agreement. It is not, gray. It's very black and white, very clear, 119 pages of it.
Yeah.
And they're compliant with it, according to the IMF, which, the IMF doesn't, they don't joke around. They want to exert control and they want to dictate policy. And it sounds like they got what they wanted. I don't think they would say, yeah, we agreed this, but the agreement really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't see them playing that game.
Yeah. So your mission right now is nation state adoption. Now that the IMF has essentially revealed their cards, and was it 94 countries? So the majority of the world's countries essentially have these dealings with the IMF. What are you going to do? What's your strategy?
Well, it's not every country. So there are other countries that are not under the thumb of the IMF. But yeah, they are very pervasive in their reach. And I don't know, like some countries that we engage with that we know are beholden to the IMF, we still tell them you should do it anyways, even as a bargaining chip, so you can undo it later and, get something out of them, right?
Yeah.
But it seems to be that is the play here. Like, they don't like it. You can do something with Bitcoin or talk favorably about Bitcoin, maybe add some Bitcoin policy, and it'll take them a couple of years to unwind that. And in the meantime, you have a bargaining chip, because if you are in debt to the IMF and they say, Nico, dye your hair red and, wear your shirt backwards, what's your bargaining chip? You have nothing. But if you did do a Bitcoin strategy,
it's true.
At least you could say, yeah, okay, we'll undo that.
Yeah.
And you can not have to wear your pants backwards.
Yeah. I think my question to you is, from a GDP perspective, like El Salvador is a very small country, geographically as well. Why do they care so much from this very small country in Central America that it's like their people went through hell? Why do they care so much from them benefiting from Bitcoin? Like legal tender? No. You can't acquire it. Like, why are they so they're scared. They're like they must be terrified.
Well, I think there's two things here. One is the obvious answer, which is Bitcoin makes the IMF obsolete because their funds don't exist, actually. They don't even have the fiat. What they have is a special drawing rights, SDR. Not SBR, SDR, special drawing rights to create money, basically. And it's all imaginary money on top of imaginary money. So with Bitcoin and a Sun Money standard, you can't really do that anymore. You can't have a special Bitcoin drawing right and lend that out, right? It doesn't work. So that would be one reason why they're incentivized to fight against Bitcoin, because it makes them gone. It's like if USAID could fight Elon, wouldn't they? Yeah, of course they would, right? The other answer is I think El Salvador is not in a good fiscal position. So Bitcoin News posted a long thread about the financial situation of the country, and it looks like their debt to GDP ratio has increased a lot, and their debt has increased by 55% or 54% in the last 4 years alone. So fiscally, they're not in a good position, and they need the IMF money to, not default, which it seems like they don't want to default, not with the trajectory of growth that they have right now.
Of course.
So they're in a difficult position where they have to take the loan or default. And I think the IMF wouldn't lend them the money if they were still buying Bitcoin, right? Yeah. So they're kind of looking at it from a pragmatic standpoint, which is you're getting further into debt. and you're still taking money to buy Bitcoin.
In a way, it's kind of malicious, I would say, from their end.
True. And the problem is they didn't have enough Bitcoin. See, if they had enough Bitcoin,
They could just say,
that would be enough to finance the debt. Or if they had like mining, right? If they had volcano mining and had ramped that up, then they would have a better position to bargain from. But they didn't have that. So they do need to service the debt or default. So they kind of need to take the deal. And the IMF cannot rationally give them money if they're still taking the money to buy Bitcoin. This is why I think there's some loophole there, because the IMF would not agree that, yeah, we're going to buy 1 Bitcoin a day when your debt is doubled in the last 4 years.
Yeah. It makes sense. So, final question to you, Samson, unrelated to the price. Very exciting times. What are you the most excited about? Like, 5-year horizon. Man, you've been in this industry for such a long time. Contributed so much with Blockstream, now your own company, and with the Aqua Wallet, of course, which I was getting my mind blown when we were talking about it in El Salvador. Just the how it's working with Liquid and all this stuff working in the background, and then the stablecoin. I was like learning on air. So what has you the most excited personally?
I think it's just real adoption of Bitcoin.
Okay.
And I think all the things happening in the US are going to accelerate it. Like, we see countries moving up their timelines to implement some sort of Bitcoin strategy now that they see something happening in the US. Even though it was obviously going to happen, nobody really believes it until it happens. There's also Bhutan with their Bitcoin earnings. They're building an airport, right? These concrete, real-world examples of Bitcoin prosperity are what will make people actually do something, not us talking about Bitcoin. They have to see someone actually succeed with Bitcoin. When they see the airport being built with Bitcoin, mined Bitcoin, that would have otherwise not existed because it would have just been run off hydropower, that changes the logic circuits in people's heads, and they understand, okay, all this excess energy is actually money, and I can get stuff with it, like roads and airports and trains. Then I think the equation really changes. And what that leads to is more Bitcoin adoption, which means more people in the world use Bitcoin as money, which solves the fundamental problem of financial inclusion. So I guess the short answer is we're going to see the world change because everyone will be able to participate in the financial system now, whereas previously they're excluded. So people will be able to set up businesses, trade internationally, all with Bitcoin rails. And I think we haven't seen a world in which everyone is on equal footing, that everyone can trade with one another, save in the same hard asset, and the asset that billionaires want. And that is really transformative for humanity and prosperity.
Beautiful. Yeah. Fix the money, fix the world.
Precisely.
Samson, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Nico.
Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledn has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally have not only an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledn is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to HODL while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you. Check out Ledn.io today.